We're back from spring break with a new set and new stories. Thanks for joining us.
On today's show, a couple of Carolina students spent their break near Ground Zero. Carolina Week's Adura Achumba was among them. She's back with a first-hand look 6 months after the September 11 terrorist attacks.
Carolina fans now have something to cheer about on the sports side of things. The women's basketball team has made it to the Sweet 16. We'll have highlights.
And the latest on campus parking. We'll take a look at what's being added and how students are reacting.
Stay right here for those stories and more.
Carolina Week starts now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
But the buses don't run that late, and so I need to drive to campus to park at night just to go to work.
I think it's tough on students to charge them $122 to come and do those things that you're required to do in order to achieve here at Carolina.
$122 is a lot, and I really can't afford to pay that.
Students react to the newest proposal for night parking. Good evening, I'm Tim Nelson.
And I'm Brigida Mack. We're following two big stories tonight, tuition and parking. Carolina Week has special team coverage. We'll tell you what's new since the Board of Governors made its decision to increase tuition.
But first, parking. Next year's plan for parking at UNC-Chapel Hill is just one step from becoming reality, and the price tags coming with some of the proposals are much more than just a couple of extra dimes in the meter. A permit for the new night parking program will cost employees $166 annually. Students will pay $122. Regular employee parking will cost up to $20 more per month. Students will pay up to $100 more each year. Officials will open 2 new park and ride lots, and those will both be free. The Board of Trustees will vote on the proposal next week, and if it's approved, the changes take effect August 15th. But some student leaders are upset with the proposal. And Student Body Vice President Rudy Kleistuber joins us now to discuss some of their concerns. Rudy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Well, Rudy, I guess the obvious question is, why is it that some are upset about the proposal that was accepted Tuesday?
I think the main reason is that it's really not in agreement with what the representative body that's supposed to advise decisions like this came up with. That body came up with a proposal or some recommendations that were significantly different than what's come out of the decision.
That body, of course, being TPAC, the Transportation, Parking, and Advisory Committee. What parts of the proposal that they put forward weren't accepted, and what has people upset?
The main thing has to do with night parking on campus. The committee voted almost unanimously, that's only 4 dissenting votes out of a group of about 20, to not have a night parking permit per se, and instead to institute a student fee where all students would pay $5 for the universal privilege of being able to park on campus at night.
Okay, so that was the proposal, was to have a $5 fee, and they didn't accept that. What do they put in its place?
What we're going to have instead is a $61 a semester or $120 a year permit that students will have to buy to park on campus. Now, there will be a free alternative. Students will be able to park in a couple lots for free, but there are some serious safety concerns, and those lots aren't as convenient. What we're afraid of is that students will choose a different free alternative or no free alternative at all and choose an unsafe option rather than the safe option of having everyone pay and everyone be able to park.
Okay, from what I understand, this proposal goes to the Board of Trustees next week. Give me a feel for the chances that they'll approve or not approve the proposal.
I think the chances are good that they'll approve it, unfortunately. The proposal is going to carry the endorsement of the Chancellor and his cabinet, but it doesn't carry the endorsement of the body that's supposed to advise these decisions. We hope that'll change next year, but we're seriously and deeply disappointed with this year's result.
Sounds like come August 15th, we'll be having some night parking permits. Rudy Kleistuber, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Well, if you think you know how much tuition you'll be paying next year, you could be surprised. Although the Board of Governors just voted to raise tuition 8% for all UNC campuses and $300 for Carolina, that's not the end of the story. Carolina Week's Aaron Dupois joins us in the studio to tell us tuition could go up more. Aaron, it's safe to say that most students thought the 2 increases approved earlier this month were enough.
Well, Brigida, the Board of Governors' decision sent a shockwave through Carolina, but it could get worse. The BOG doesn't have the final say. Its recommendations go to the North Carolina General Assembly on May 28th. The legislature could take the BOG's proposal and increase tuition even more. A year ago, the BOG had just approved a 4% system-wide increase. The legislature raised that to 9%. This time, the BOG says 8%. We'll have to wait until May 28th to see what the General Assembly does with that number. In the meantime, 2 members of the legislature are suggesting a way to get the needed funds from the state, rather than from tuition increases. Senator Mark Bass-Knight and House Speaker Jim Black say some of the money needed to fund enrollment could come from the state's continuation budget. Education money from the state comes out of 2 budgets, the expansion budget and the continuation budget. Right now, enrollment growth funding comes out of the expansion budget.
Aaron, how would pulling money in from the continuation budget help the UNC system?
Well, Brigida, when a state budget is in crisis and funding gets cut, money from the continuation budget is more secure. Funds from the expansion budget may get sucked away when the state's hurting for money. Some BOG members and legislators say they like the idea. They say that if it's possible to fund UNC through state money, that's the best choice.
Well, some say students' voices aren't being heard on campus in light of the recent tuition increases. Student Body President-elect Jen Dom is organizing a summer class to teach students how to approach groups such as the UNC Board of Governors. Dom says lobbying is a skill that can be learned, and she hopes to collaborate with the Association of Student Governments to spread the course throughout the UNC system.
Once the new ASG president is in place, I will start to have a dialogue with him or her regarding how to expand this and how to really allow students to lobby collectively and to be educated about the issues that affect them.
Says she anticipates support from the Carolina administration as she continues to structure the class. Well, even though the men's basketball team isn't in the NCAA tournament, Carolina fans, still have a team to cheer for.
Ben Hayes joins us now to tell us about the Carolina women's tournament run.
Well, Nikki Teasley would close out her Carmichael career with a spot in the Sweet 16 on the line. Monday night, Carolina hosted the Golden Gophers of Minnesota and would have to deal with Big Ten Player of the Year Lindsey Whalen. The Heels trail Minnesota most of the game, but Coretta Brown gets hot late in the second half and finishes with 19 points to lead UNC. In the end, Carolina wins 72-69, sending Sylvia Hatchell's team to its 8th Sweet 16 in the past 10 years. Nikki Teasley says the team kept its poise even when down.
Not at one point in the game did we ever panic. You know, it was always important that I kept the team going, and every time we would miss, I said, that's okay. Keep our composure, and the coaches will always look to me for leadership, and the players would look to me for leadership. So it was important that I kept my composure.
Carolina now moves on to play top-seeded Vanderbilt in the Midwest semifinals Saturday at Ames, Iowa. The game will be at 9:30 and will air on ESPN2.
While many head to the beach for spring break, some UNC-Chapel Hill students had a different type of spring break experience to talk about. From Ground Zero, Carolina Week's Adure Achumba reports.
Ground Zero. It certainly doesn't come to mind as a spring break destination. But these Carolina students feel an obligation to make a pilgrimage to New York to pay their respects to the fallen and see for themselves the devastation of 9/11.
It's a whole different feeling from watching it on TV and being right here. And I think in order to make all of this come together in your mind, to make you realize what really happened, who really passed, who really died, you know, who was affected, I think it's important for you to be able to come down here and see some of these memorials.
This is history, you know, and this is important to see because it's, you know, it's a part of our country. It's what has happened to us. It shows kind of how we've been hit. It really makes you think. It really makes you appreciate your family and little things in life because, I mean, those people on the 11th, you know, went to work. It was a normal day for them, and many of them are no longer here. So it really makes you just appreciate life and just know that, you know, you should live life to the fullest.
The terrorist attacks of September 11 destroyed the World Trade Center's Twin Towers, but it has not destroyed the spirit of New York or the spirit of America.
It's still pretty much the hustle and bustle of the city that I expected. I also noticed that there are a lot of other tourists here, people kind of looking at the memorials and stuff like that, taking pictures.
Being here gives you a whole new spirit of patriotism. You always felt American, but you just feel like extra American.
In New York, Adure Achumba, Carolina Week.
The students went to New York on their own accord and were not sponsored by the university or any student group.
The new mall in Durham offers a unique shopping experience for North Carolinians.
But we'll see if it's really bringing in more money to the area when Carolina Week returns.
En el bosque las ratas jugaban. Escucha Smokey antes de tratar.
Solo tú.
No juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego. Fuego. No hay nada pero un pobre conejo asustado o un pobre ratón sin casa en que vivir. Si un hermoso bosque es lo que deseas, no juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego.
Solo tú puedes prevenir los fuegos forestales.
¡Fuego!
There is a better way to have fun with history. Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Greenspan says the country is finally out of recession. Locally, Carolina Week's Regina Willis tells us how a new mall is affecting the Triangle's economy after 2 weeks in business.
Mall does not compare to malls in Chicago, Atlanta. I've never seen a mall like this.
Marilyn Kunick is the general manager for the Streets at South Point's Hudson Belk, one of about 140 businesses at the new mall. 24 of them are making their debut in North Carolina, including a Nordstrom. The mall's created more than 3,500 permanent jobs, and mall managers are expecting $297 million in sales in its first year, which would bring in more than $5 million in taxes to the county and city combined.
But while all these people mean the Streets at South Point is getting off to a solid start, across town, South Square is seeing a slump in sales.
Mainly South Square was where I would run into and shop.
But Durham resident Nancy Brinitzers found a new favorite mall in South Point.
Obviously it's bigger, it's nicer.
More than 30 of South Square shops have closed their doors, including 2 of 3 major department stores, and many have moved into the new mall. Bell closed stores at South Square and University Mall before opening at South Point.
It just demographically does not make sense to have this store here and then those stores in those locations too.
More than 40% of South Point Belk's employees came from the other stores. So the mall isn't just shifting local customers, it's shifting local jobs. Still, mall officials believe South Point will bring more money to the area by attracting customers from farther away.
We had people here from Charlotte that drove down, even from Greensboro and Raleigh, just to see what it was like. So I think it's certainly going to help the economy in the long run.
In Durham, I'm Regina Willis, Carolina Week.
The new mall is similar in size to Raleigh's Crabtree Valley Mall, but about 30 minutes closer for Chapel Hill and Durham residents. Management at Crabtree says it's business as usual.
Well, Carolina and Elizabeth City State University educators could be looking into developing a pharmacy program at ECSU. The state legislature recently tapped UNC-Chapel Hill's pharmacy school to determine if a program at ECSU would be possible. Carolina officials concluded a joint program between the schools would be best. Although ECSU students would pay tuition to Carolina, most of their work would be completed through video conferencing, online courses, and on-site work at area hospitals and clinics. If accepted into the pharmacy program, ECSU students would receive a Carolina degree. A partnership with the historically black school could increase Carolina's 10% minority enrollment.
And we'll take a shift to weather now. And Kelly, lots of spring breakers were probably enjoying the fun in the sun last week, but now it's back a little cooler. What's up for the weekend?
Yeah, we certainly did have a spring tease at the beginning of this week, and other than that, it's been a mixed bag pretty much. And the forecast is looking brighter as we head into the weekend, so that's the good news. But speaking of these clouds this week, let's go to this week's weather question, which is, which percentage of UVB rays reach the ground on a cloudy day? Is it 10%, 35%, 68%, or 80%? I'll be back with the answer to the weather question and your weekend forecast just after the break.
Women's Center, may I help you?
The Women's Center is a nonprofit agency that has served as a meeting place for women in the Triangle since 1979, making it one of the oldest freestanding women's centers in the country. The mission of the Women's Center is to provide a supportive community where all women can inspire each other to grow, both personally and professionally.
I was going through a crisis at home, and I contacted Helpline, and they referred me directly to the Women's Center.
I think the Women's Center is really important for the community because it offers so many different kinds of resources, and if we don't have the resource here, we can find an avenue or a way for women to find the answers that they need.
It is inspiring. It's so exciting to be a part of something that really matters and really changes things.
You can support the Women's Center through membership or by sending a contribution to the Women's Center, 210 Henderson Street, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514.
Mother taught me. She's
averaging 18%. Balance the budget, increasing clouds for...
UNC-TV. Your remote stops here.
Hi and welcome back to Carolina Week. Well, spring has officially sprung and already the bees are out pollinating the plants and taking advantage of these beautiful spring flowers. Azaleas and rhododendrons are in bloom all over campus and are adding a very pretty splash of color to some actually very gray weather. Well, as I mentioned, spring has officially begun and it did so this Wednesday afternoon at 2:16 p.m. We call the beginning of spring the vernal equinox because we have equal amounts of daylight and nighttime. So interesting bit of springtime information. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at your springtime forecast for that first weekend of spring. Well, here's the satellite map. We'll start off with this. North Carolina and most of our region is actually below a center of low pressure, which is bringing a lot of rain and clouds to the area. Now, the good news is this is a quick moving system and will be out of the area soon, but on its way out, it's going to present us with some rain and some clouds as we head into the weekend. Well, if we take a look at the forecast map, you can see North Carolina, Raleigh, Chapel Hill is all going to be in a big ridge of high pressure, which means very good news for the weekend ahead. It's going to clear out some skies and it's going to start to build temperatures back up. Now the cold front will pass through, which means that on your Carolina Week 4-day forecast, Friday is going to be your coolest day. High of just 49 and a chilly low of 28. Mostly sunny skies are going to prevail through the weekend. Saturday and Sunday we're going to start to warm things up. A high of 54 on Saturday, 60 on Sunday, and lows will be in the mid-30s. Now as we head into next week, things are looking even better and definitely more spring-like. High temperatures will be in the mid-60s and possibly approaching 70s as we get further into the work week. Now, if your weekend plans include a trip to the beach, things look actually much better down there, a lot more mild. High of 54 on Saturday and getting up into the mid and upper 60s on Sunday. Lows will be pretty mild in the 30s. If your weekend plans bring you out to the mountains, things will be chillier out there as usual. A very chilly low of 21 on Saturday. Highs will be in the upper 40s to mid 50s, and you'll notice that these nighttime lows are still below freezing, which means that while the skiing season is almost over, some resorts are managing to stay open and give us a last shot at the ski season. Appalachian has 9 trails open. Cataloochee and Ski Beach are closed for the season, but Sugar Mountain still has 13 trails open, so skiing isn't totally out of the question. Now, whether or not you're going skiing or to the beach this weekend, you don't want to forget about UV rays. So we want to get back to the weather question. You want to guess how many UVB rays reach the ground on a cloudy day?
I'll guess B, 35%.
It's actually 80%, so you really have to be careful. That's why they always say you can always get burned even on a cloudy day.
Thanks, Kelly. Valuable information. Well, Ben, we mentioned it earlier in the show, but it's great to see the women making a run in the tournament.
And how are those spring sports faring so far?
Well, some of the teams have hit the ground running early on, but first, as we go to break, Coach Bunting and the football team are beginning a new season. Spring practice started this week, and the big question will be who is going to take over at quarterback. The Heels will practice all the way through April 13th and will host the spring game at 1 p.m. on that day. Carolina Week Sports returns after this.
Let your knowledge grow at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. Through public service, research, conservation, and education. The garden brings North Carolina's rich natural heritage to you. It's a beautiful way to learn.
Almost half of all parents who suspect their child has a problem learning wait a year or more before getting them help. Why? When there's so much they could be achieving. Kids with learning disabilities are smart. They just learn differently. Call or visit us on the web now.
Welcome back to Carolina Week Sports. The Carolina baseball team has been scoring at will. 35 runs in the past 2 games, and no, the Heels aren't switching to football. UNC tallied 20 runs in the series finale against Maryland on Sunday, clinching the sweep. 15 more came on Tuesday afternoon against Princeton. Carolina finds home plate in a variety of ways. After a walk, leadoff man Adam Greenberg would steal third and then would get in the Heels' first run on a Tigers throwing error. Catcher Chris Lanetta pushes home 2 more runs with this blast over the left field wall. The runs would keep coming all the way to a 15-2 win, the 5th straight for the Heels. The streak will be tested this weekend as top-ranked Florida State comes to Chapel Hill for a 3-game set. The Carolina men's lacrosse team is off to a perfect 5-0 start this season and has risen to become the number 9 team in the nation. The Heels' quick start has been powered by the improved play of the seniors, who are still trying to reach their first NCAA tournament. That combined with a host of freshman talent. However, if the Heels are to secure only their 2nd winning season since 1996, they'll have to do it against some stiff competition. In the next 10 days, Carolina enters a murderous stretch of games as the Heels travel to Duke and then host Maryland, who are tied as the 5th-ranked teams in the country. After that, the Heels will head to Baltimore to take on Johns Hopkins, the number 1 team in the nation. Second-year head coach John House and the players are excited about the challenge.
This program would like to play the best teams out there, and I think that's the challenge that you have every week. And you know, the young men that we recruit here to this school, we tell them you're going to play the toughest schedule in the country.
It's going to be a big challenge for us, and it's going to see how we fit in with the rest of the good top teams this year. And I believe we have a good chance of winning 3-0, going 3-0 if we play our best.
The Carolina basketball team is unexpectedly losing one of its scoring threats. Sophomore guard Brian Morrison is transferring. Morrison will finish the spring semester and will likely attend summer school before leaving Chapel Hill. No word yet on which school Morrison will head to. The men's basketball team does have plenty of help coming in next season. The class is led by National High School Player of the Year point guard Raymond Felton. The class also includes 2 other All-Americans, guard Rashad McCants and post player Sean May. Big men Damian Grant and Byron Sanders will also join the team next year on scholarship, as will Durham star David Knoll, who is set to walk on. Now, though UNC athletes are obviously in shape, the rest of us might need a little motivation. Carolina Week's Nicole Denman has a workout to help you get a body that anyone would envy.
Silver orbs coming to Earth to get the world in shape? No, this isn't science fiction. This is Resistoball, and it's the latest workout craze sweeping through Carolina.
Resistoball really works your core area, which would be your abdominals, your lower back. It's really a functional type of class because those are the muscles that support you throughout the day.
Resistoball is an air-cushioned rubber ball that molds itself to the curves of your body, providing resistance from every angle. This helps to work out not only your core muscles, but your arms and legs as well.
It's different. It's not only like a workout, but you have to try and stay on this ball that rolls around and stuff. So it's fun. It's not only like a workout, so you're not sweating and grueling and hating it, but you're having fun at the same time.
It can be a bit tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's nothing but fun.
It's a lot more comfortable than doing sit-ups on the floor. And a little more fun. You can kind of bounce around on them.
While being surrounded by large rubber balls may invoke childhood memories of playtime, Resistoball is a serious workout for those looking for a change from their normal exercise routine.
It's something different. You're not lying on the ground doing your typical crunches. It gives a good variety, and it's fun because you just sit there and you talk to people the whole class. It's really nice, smaller group setting.
Resistoball is a short, 30-minute workout that can produce dramatic results. But for those trying to get in shape for the summer, Jansen warns that Resistoball is
a great supplement to any workout, but you can't do sit-ups and end up looking great in a bathing suit.
Trying to help Carolina get in shape for spring. I'm Nicole Denman, Carolina Week Sports.
That workout sure looks pretty tough. Now, if y'all want to check out highlights of all this weekend's big games, be sure to tune in to Carolina Week Sports Spotlight on our website, carolinaweek.org, every Tuesday.
Thanks, Ben. Well, they may be retired, but some local senior citizens haven't stopped working to make a difference in a world away.
We'll tell you what they've been up to. Carolina Week returns after the break.
George Strait for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. When you're traveling during the holidays and see someone who's had too much to drink, about to get behind the wheel, get those keys and save a life. When you celebrate, designate. Choose a designated driver. You drink and drive, you lose.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
What would you do if your mother asked you? So class, tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, Molly?
I want to be a supermodel when I grow up.
How about you, Josh?
I want to be a cowboy when I grow up.
Well, doesn't anybody want to be a designated driver when they grow up?
A what? Designated. I don't know what that is.
Driver?
You heard of that?
You don't know about the most important thing is where most fires start. It's right in your kitchen. If a kitchen fire starts, don't go running around. Get out of that house, get on to safe ground. Only parents should be cooking on the stove, and they should never leave what they're cooking unattended to. Pot holders, dish towels, paper towels, and especially clothing. They should all be kept away from the burners. Gotta be cool. It's cool about fire safety.
Carolina has lost one of its own. George Watts Hill Jr. died recently at his Chapel Hill home. Many buildings on campus bear his family name, like Hill Hall and the George Watts Hill Alumni Center. The prominent UNC-Chapel Hill alumnus was an outspoken advocate of equal education in the state's colleges and universities. He argued forcefully for bringing the races together and for fairness for all North Carolinians. He's also responsible for consolidating the UNC system, combining all 16 campuses under one board. A memorial service is scheduled for Thursday, March 21st at the First Presbyterian Church in Durham. George Watts Hill Jr. was 75.
Well, senior citizens in Chapel Hill are helping children in Afghanistan.
A few weeks ago, Carolina Week told you about a local organization's hunger relief efforts in Afghanistan. Now, Stop Hunger Now President Ray Buchanan is able to take more than food on his trips. Ladies in the quilting club at Carol Woods in Chapel Hill recently handmade 6 quilts for Buchanan to take to babies. Quilter Myra Ledyard says the project is a way for club members to make a difference in other people's lives.
When you get to our stage of life, you have a terrific need to be useful. And we really feel that we are being useful doing this.
The ladies are making more quilts for Buchanan's next trip.
The ladies, for more information about hunger relief or the quilting club, look for this story on our website.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to watch next week.
Until then, have a good night and a good week.
Good night.